that one. Now, I think instead of coming with a lot of concepts that I think, would be building on what we've seen so far, I wanted to step a bit back and, start really thinking about, what is the digitization that we're talking about, and also allow us to project further in the future, what the trends are going. So what you will see is a bit of, non-classic presentation, but I wanted to do this to trigger a bit some of the thoughts. So what you see here is, in fact, the male pigeon, okay, that is being used already for ages. I think a few thousand years before Christ, the Persian people were using this to transfer information from one side to another. And even in 1860, Reuters, the press company, had, I think, 45 of these pigeons actually at service to bring these messages, which we now call tweets, but in fact, this already existed back then. So this is effectively the old way of moving information. A lot has changed, and I think you cannot imagine a world where, whenever you want to book a room or you want to order something on Amazon, you have to, let go a pigeon to bring this information to the receiver. Okay, so it's quite abstract but important, because in fact the things that we've spoken in evolution you see still linking to these pigeons. Okay, the only point is that these pigeons that carry the information, they're just a bit faster. Okay, we've got now 5G that can transfer quite fast. We've got optic cables, so these pigeons, they have quite some speed. Okay, what we also see is that we've got more pigeons. Everybody is connecting everything to the network. So, for example, in the past, I mean, people were not thinking of connecting their home temperature control to the net. Now, I mean, people are perfectly able to, control their house temperature at their fingertips with the smartphone, open the gate, and even if I link back again to the supply chain, all the containers or more containers on the road have now GPS signals, which allow companies like Group 44 to actually use this data. So the amount of information that is available is more and more and more expanding. And this is something that continues and will continue to happen. Okay, now this will not stop. This continues, and it's important to make sure that everybody is aware that it will continue to happen. Okay, now what is the result of having all these pigeons and so many pigeons coming is that people are not able anymore to cope with information. And that's, I think, why we also link back to artificial intelligence. But what in the past you had somebody that was able to read this message that the pigeon brought, then type it into the press and it was distributing, or direct the phone, or even looking more recently, dispatch trucks from here to there. Today, people cannot handle all these different parameters. Coming back to potentially this home situation, I mean, there's a bit of added value of controlling your home temperature control with your phone, but would it not be even better if the system is so smart that it will take your position, it will take the time of the day, your energy price, and then say, okay, now it's the moment to start heating your house. Okay, so why do you have to go to your phone and say, now I need to turn it on? Because you don't have time for it. And this is in fact what we also see in businesses. Even in my job, where I worked indeed, managing more than 500 loads per day, my team was not able to take all the external information points and make proper decisions. Okay, so most of the time you then see that people are reading things, they're copy pasting to Excel or from SAP or maybe some dashboards already, but they were not able to make quality information. It's very good that I just saw in the previous presentation that there was this indeed truck that was late, but assuming that you do 2,000 loadings or 200 loadings, it might be even too much to act on this. Okay, so even you can think of this information point, can you bring it further and can you then translate it into automatically postponing something? So the evolution is that people are not able to cope with all the information. This will continue to go on further. So this is quite abstract, but I believe that this links to all the things that you see around, okay? A Google is heavily banking on the fact that there is so much information to be, you know, available. And then you come to the artificial intelligence where this information will be then processed and something relevant comes out of it. I mean, now you go to Google, you type something, and almost the answer of your question is there, but it's there because it takes so much different data points, okay? Now, why do I say this? Because I think, you know, you did not wait the whole session just to hear me talk about pigeons and then, you know, this obvious. I say this because I believe it is a conceptual point that, you know, everything will be built on. And when you then need to translate into your own business, so not the specific examples like we've had here, but for example, myself in my previous company, or now where I'm, you know, also just starting to further bring this journey and contagious journey. I think it helps us to see what does it mean for your business and what choices conceptually do you need to make, okay? Because here I think we've got quite some you know, strong companies that just presented that they have huge potential and great tools. But when you choose a specific tool for your company, you need to make sure that you're able to leverage the information flow optimally, okay? So one advice I always gave is whenever you buy a package or you link to a platform, make sure the platform and in the contract negotiations, you have this connectivity available. You need to be able to access the data, and ideally you need to have a communication in a very native way. Because again, we talk about reducing the challenges to bring information. So this is an advice I give whenever you decide the strategy for your company, okay? The second element is, you also seen this, I think in the previous slide, the data is everywhere. So it's great that you have the connectivity, but you cannot always access it easily. So you need to make sure that you have a very efficient data pool, or storing the data, or just being a data bridge that you can go to directly to get this data. And the companies that we've seen provide this, but ideally in your company, you decide on your strategy of where will your go-to data pool be, so that when you want to make decisions, you don't need to connect to all these different tools, but you have them available. Very important. And then, of course, you need to then start using this data that you have for reporting. We've seen some examples. For automation, but also you can build your artificial intelligence on it. So also there you need to think of what are the different models that you will use in your company. So not specifically outside, but you can use outside companies to then use this information. And when I'm saying this, if you look back in 20 years from now, you might have robots that make the robots for you. So I think we will get to a point where this automation is even automating the automation, okay? Now, the last element that you need to take on, and this is what I've also learned, is you need to make sure in your recruiting, besides having these elements there, have the right people. You cannot just work with an IT department that then works with these external companies that then is able to connect interfaces. Ideally, you have people in your operations that are able to, you know, work with these, you know, automation tools, or are able to implement some of the, I call it citizenships programmation, in that will simplify some of their work. Because I have a lot of examples of elements where you know, a person planning something knows, if I just can get this information to a carrier, my life would be easier and we would eliminate such a lot of losses. And one example that I would just highlight is in my previous role, we had the issue that whenever we load, you know, we have a carrier that is on our site, he brings the trucks, leaves the drops behind, and then comes to pick them up. But he didn't have real-time visibility on when these loads were ready and loaded. So sometimes, you know, he came and he waited, and then, you know, we get the phone calls, you know, why is this drop not loaded? What my team did, because the information that we have of loading from this specific warehouse was in the data pool, we gave access to the carrier to this specific data pool. So that means that the carrier came, he saw this not ready, he goes in the data pool that we've offered to him, and he could make his decision automatically, and he took the right container. So this is you will not go to your IT department to make this, but your people, if they have the right capability, are able to do so. So this is what you need to keep in mind, I believe, as a business leader. Make sure you have the infrastructure that I just highlighted, and then make sure you have the right people in your organization to do so. And of course, the tools you then need to use, I mean, you've seen great examples. I think more examples will come, but you need to think of the foundation on how can you increase the speed and of communication. I want to have three key watch outs that I've come across, and I just want to highlight. The first one is you need to focus on value creation. So automate and capture data only where you believe it will create value. It's really addressing a business need. I shared this example of the carrier waiting. We clearly reduced some business need. We could have a customer that wants to know when a product is arrived. If this specifically is a business need, we could work with bridging this information to the specific customer. Okay. One other very important point is when we talk artificial intelligence, we talk about robots that make decisions for us. They become black boxes. And then because we don't know what's going in, we tend to trust blindly what comes out. Make sure when you go to this way that you have also elements to check whether the quality of the data is right, potentially via a secondary validation. So it's very important that for important decisions or big models, make sure you have this there. And the last point is linking a bit to the innovation. When you are developing or having your people developing these tools, you need to also have a process of standardizing so that these individual improvements at some point are rolled out at the group level and don't become these individual improvements here and there. So with this, I close my point and I open up for questions about Pigeons.